So let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Consuming information is not the same as learning. You can watch videos all night and still wake up with the same thinking patterns. I'm Leo, and welcome back to Learn with Leo. Today, we're exposing the difference between looking educated and becoming capable. Because buying books can feel productive, even when the pages stay unopened. Saving articles can feel like progress, even when your browser has hundreds of unread tabs. And finishing a course can feel like mastery, even before you solve one real problem. Psychologists call this the illusion of fluency. Familiarity feels like understanding. You recognize the words, so your brain assumes it knows the idea. This is why rereading often feels easier than remembering. In 1994, psychologists Jacobi and Kelly showed how familiarity can be mistaken for memory. The same trap appears at work, in classrooms, and during endless scrolling. You may nod along in a meeting, then freeze when someone asks, "How would you use that?" Real learning leaves evidence, clearer explanations, better decisions, and useful action. So stop counting books, badges, and hours watched. Start measuring what you can explain, remember, and apply. But first, beware the illusion of knowledge. Recognizing a term is not understanding it. Anyone can repeat buzzwords. Few can explain the mechanism. That gap is performative learning, sounding smart without usable knowledge. You watched a finance video. Can you explain compound interest without jargon? You read Atomic Habits. Can you redesign one habit loop this week? Exposure feels productive because familiarity feels true. Psychologists call this the familiarity effect. The classic Dunning-Kruger research revealed a similar trap. Knowing a little can make you feel like an expert. Social pressure makes the trap worse. Nobody wants to say, "I don't know." So we nod, quote the book, and hide the confusion. Real learners do the opposite. They test their understanding. Close the source, explain the idea simply in your own words. If you cannot explain it clearly, you have found your next lesson. And that next lesson may feel uncomfortable. Good. Real learning often does. Your brain prefers easy, familiar answers. Deep thinking costs energy. That is cognitive ease. Familiar ideas feel true, even when they are not. Daniel Kahneman called this fast, automatic thinking system 1. But difficult learning needs system 2, slow, effortful, deliberate thought. It means sitting with confusion instead of instantly reaching for an answer. It means saying, "I don't understand this yet." That final word matters. Yet. Beginner status is temporary. You are not bad at coding, maths, or Spanish. You are early. The ego hates this stage. It wants to look capable now. So people nod in meetings, repeat jargon, and avoid basic questions. Try the opposite. Ask the question everyone else is quietly avoiding. Separate performance from worth. A wrong answer is data, not a verdict. Otherwise, confidence can outrun competence. That is the Dunning-Kruger trap. Shallow knowledge feels certain. Deep knowledge sees complexity and keeps going. But deep learning also requires knowing when to let go. Time invested in an idea does not make it valuable forever. Sometimes the knowledge you worked hardest to acquire is the knowledge you most need to question. This is where the sunk cost fallacy quietly takes control. We keep defending something. Not because it works, but because abandoning it feels like admitting defeat. Imagine spending years studying a business theory that never improves your actual decisions. The pages may be impressive, but the results are the honest test. A famous example is the Concorde aircraft. Governments kept funding it long after the economics looked irrational. Past spending could not be recovered, but it still influenced future decisions. The same pattern appears in careers, ideologies, degrees, and even favorite productivity systems. You may stay in a job you dislike because leaving would make the last 5 years feel wasted. But the past is already spent. The real question is what choice creates value from today onward. Evaluate knowledge by 3 standards: explanation, usefulness, and relevance. Can it explain what is happening, help you solve problems, and serve your current goals? If not, your loyalty may be protecting an identity, not improving your judgment. Letting go does not erase the work you did. It converts that work into better self-knowledge. You now know what to avoid, what to test, and where your assumptions were weak. Intellectual maturity is not knowing everything. It is updating your mind when reality gives you better evidence. With that mindset, difficult learning becomes far less personal. Struggling with calculus or coding does not mean you are unintelligent. It means your brain is meeting unfamiliar patterns. That is exactly where meaningful growth begins. Psychologist Carol Dweck called this a growth mindset. Ability is developed through effort, strategies, and feedback. But growth mindset is not pretending everything is easy. It is refusing to turn difficulty into a verdict about yourself. Second, trust the compounding effect. Daily progress can look invisible before it suddenly becomes obvious. James Clear makes a similar point in Atomic Habits. Small improvements compound into remarkable results. A language learner may practice for weeks and still feel stuck. Then familiar phrases suddenly start connecting. The breakthrough was not magic. Your brain was quietly building the structure underneath. So measure consistency, not emotional excitement. Motivation comes and goes. A simple system keeps moving. Third, use the small pockets of time you already have. A commute can become a classroom. During a walk, listen to a lecture. While cooking dinner, review one useful idea. This is not multitasking at its best. It is matching low-demand moments with low-friction learning. Even 20 focused minutes each workday adds up to more than 80 hours across a year. That is enough time to finish a serious course, build a foundation, or become conversational in a new subject. The goal is not heroic study sessions once a month. It is reliable progress you can repeat. Protect your self-worth, trust compounding, and turn spare minutes into progress. That is how difficult learning becomes sustainable. And to make that sustainable, you need tools that turn exposure into retention. The first tool is active recall. Closing the book and making your brain retrieve the answer. Recognition feels easy because the answer is visible. Retrieval is harder and far more powerful. After reading a chapter, write down everything you can remember before checking your notes. That small struggle is not wasted effort. It is the workout that strengthens memory. Next comes spaced repetition. Reviewing information just before it fades. The psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus showed that forgetting happens quickly without well-timed review. Apps like Anki make this practical by scheduling the cards you are most likely to forget. Do not turn every sentence into a flashcard. Keep only ideas worth remembering. This is where the 80-20 principle becomes useful. In most subjects, a few foundational concepts unlock much of the practical value. For programming, that might mean variables, control flow, and data structures before obscure library tricks. For business, learn how customers, incentives, costs, and distribution work before chasing jargon. Selective attention matters because your time is limited, especially in an endless scroll culture. Choose fewer, better sources, then test whether they improve your decisions. The goal is not to remember everything. It is to retain what changes how you think and act. So give each useful idea a place to land. Build the map before collecting the street names. Without a framework, facts arrive like loose puzzle pieces with no edge to start from. Start broad. Ask, what is this field trying to explain and why does it matter? Before diving into economics, learn the basic actors: households, businesses, banks, and government. Then technical terms stop feeling random. Inflation, interest rates, and recessions gain context. This is scaffolding, a simple structure that lets harder knowledge climb into place. For history, begin with a timeline, not 1,000 disconnected dates. See the sequence first: cause, conflict, consequence, then the finer details. For psychology, begin with the major schools, then compare what each explains well. A useful overview is not cheating. It gives your working memory room to think. Psychologist George Miller showed working memory is sharply limited. Overload it, and learning collapses. Once you have a map, take a provisional position. Make a tentative call. For example, I currently think remote work improves focused tasks. Then test that claim. Now you read actively. Which evidence supports it? What evidence could prove you wrong? A starting belief creates questions. Rigidity blocks answers. Update fast when better evidence arrives. A revised map beats defending a wrong one. So once your map improves, build a system that keeps correcting it. Deep learning needs feedback, not just more input. Start with 3 habits: review, notes, and explanation. First, revisit ideas before your brain deletes them. Spaced review turns short-term exposure into durable recall. Second, do not copy notes. Translate them. Ask, how would I explain this to a smart friend? That is the Feynman technique. Simple words expose fuzzy thinking. When your explanation breaks, you have found the next gap. Third, connect every useful idea to another idea. Isolated facts fade. Connected knowledge becomes a network. Apps like Obsidian can become your external second brain. Use AI as a sparring partner, not a replacement for thought. Ask it for examples, counter-arguments, and blind spots. Then protect the system. Silence alerts, choose focus, repeat. And keep repeating. But remember, a system matters only if it changes how you think. Lifelong learning is not collecting answers. It is rebuilding your mental models. That means admitting when you do not know, or when your old answer no longer works. This is not weakness, it is intellectual maturity. Psychologist Carol Dweck calls this a growth mindset. Ability can be developed through effort and feedback, so treat confusion like a signal. It marks the edge of your current map. Most people retreat there. Deep learners get curious. They ask, what would change my mind? What evidence am I missing? Choose your inputs carefully. What you repeatedly consume becomes part of your identity. Your feed is not just entertainment. It is training data for your attention. A steady diet of outrage trains reflexes. Better sources train better judgment. This takes patience. Real understanding rarely arrives with a dramatic breakthrough. It grows quietly, review by review, question by question, correction by correction. Yes, learning will bruise your pride. Let it. The payoff is independent thought, clearer judgment, stronger presence, fewer borrowed beliefs. So now turn that independence into a practical standard. Understanding you can use. Stop counting books, videos, or impressive-sounding words. Count better decisions instead. If you cannot explain an idea simply, your knowledge may still be unfinished. That is the spirit of the Feynman technique. Explain, find the gap, then learn again. Next, release knowledge that no longer helps you reach your current goals. This is not failure, it is intellectual maintenance. Even Daniel Kahneman showed how easily confidence can outrun accuracy. So build a system that keeps your confidence honest. Review important ideas with spaced repetition before they disappear. Take structured notes that connect concepts, not isolated quotes. Use AI as a sparring partner, not a substitute for thinking. Ask for examples, counter-arguments, and gaps in your reasoning. Then protect the attention required to make those habits sustainable. Now ask yourself, what have you studied heavily that no longer serves you? Share your answer below, subscribe for more practical psychology, and keep learning with intention.